Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to The Big Picture. I am your host, Larry Ragland. But as you know already, if you've been watching the channel, I'm not your only host, and I'll bring my lovely assistant in just a minute. But more than anything, we're excited about our guest on the Kingdom Intelligence Report tonight. None other than Stan Deyo coming into the studio on The Big Picture right after this. Well, here we are on The Big Picture, Big Picture.
Back.
Kingdom Intelligence Report. All right. And well, I've got my co-host. This is my first time for her to ever be on the Kingdom Intelligence Report with me. So we're very excited to have you on the show. Y'all show some love.
I'm super excited to be here.
Yes.
Not just for myself, but because of our special guest tonight.
Absolutely. And we'll bring him in just a moment. But we do want to remind everybody that's watching it to always join us here every Monday night on The Big Picture Live. We are here 7 p.m. Central Time every Monday night. Sandy and I co-host this, and we cover stuff that you're not going to see anywhere else, hearing news items that you're not going to see or hear anywhere else. And it is growing by leaps and bounds. And then if you really want to know what's going on, I mean, bigger than the news, if you want to know the true big picture, you need to know what the Word of God says about this day and time. And we are going verse by verse in the study of the book of Revelation every Sunday night at 8 p.m. So we want to make sure that everybody joins us on that. But tonight, today, or whenever you're watching this, live or on the replay, we have our special monthly guest now. How exciting is that? That's going to come in monthly.
I cannot even express. It's amazing. It's wonderful. And I want to go ahead and apologize if I sniff or wipe eyes or nose. The pollen is just unbearable right now. And I don't know how it is in Colorado where you are, but it's pretty rough down here.
All right, well, let's bring in our guest. Stan Deyo is with us, y'all. We're so excited to have Mr. Stan Deyo. Thank you, sir, for joining us on The Big Picture. The last time you were with us, it was one of the most popular shows that we've ever done. I mean, we had so many comments. People loved it on the show that we did with you, and you came in on our live program with us, and that was such a huge blessing to us. But tonight, we want to just start off right hitting the ground running. We have so many things that we want to cover and pick that brain and that mind of Mr. Stan Deyo.
Absolutely.
So, Stan, let's just go right to this. Sandy and I, we watch the news a lot, and we talk about the New World Order. We talk about the World Economic Forum. We talk about all the things that are going on trying to move us into a system of digital currency and all that. We'll get to that in just a moment. But one of the things that they say at the World Economic Forum, in order for the New World Order to happen, is that we're going to have computers that are possible, that has the power to do things that we've never known before. Are we ready for that? Do you think that we have the computer capacity in place to bring a global system, a global way of tracking across the board?
Yes, I do. The computing power and the memory storage is a problem, has been a problem for a long time, but they've solved that now. When we first started talking about this in business in Dallas, I was at a meeting with some of the multimillionaires that were forming a digital network along the right-of-ways of the Union Pacific Railway, and we were talking about how to put an ID number on the right hand because people carry the keys the right hand, all that kind of stuff. But we did all the stuff that it talks about in the Revelation of John, but at that time we just didn't have the compute power to do it. Now we have compute power. There are 10 different manufacturers around the planet, Japan, China, Russia, Finland, under Hewlett-Packard, that are making and testing what's called a quantum computer. And they have a normal type computer underneath that at the moment, which is definitely, ready to go. And it is so powerful that it can take 8 billion people and 125,000 characters of data processing on them per second.
Is this what we're looking at right now?
Yeah, well, that's the quantum computer. That's the next stage of what they've got already going now. But they can now, as I say, compute 125,000 calculations per person per second on the whole planet. And then you can look at what they can do with animal and food and items under the blockchain system. They can monitor everything digitally so fast that you can't escape it.
They know where every resource is at all times, or they will, right?
Yeah, and where that resource came from, because when a farmer produces the grain and he puts a load into the distributor, there is a blockchain ID number for that shipment of grain, so we know it came from that farmer, and then it is passed on to wholesalers and then to retailers. Each one adds their number to it, and that chain. That's why it's called a blockchain.
So you're literally saying that because of the bioengineering of seeds and the tracking of seeds and certain companies having control over seeds and they don't replenish themselves and so forth, you're saying those seed packets where they originate, they're trackable even when they put it in the ground. We have the ability to compute what people are planting, what people are harvesting, basically control of every aspect of the food chain from the ground to the mouth?
Yeah, and not only the food chain, it's the product chain. They're going to be tracing your car and all the materials in it, back to the source manufacturer, and then the assembler, and then the salespeople, and then the service people. I mean, it's just everything in your store. Those are food items, but then you've got car stores and clothing store. Every product that is made and sold, and bought by people, will be registered in this blockchain system. And these computers now have the grunt to do that. I mean, they're not going to be processing data on 8 billion people per second every moment, but they could. When you see, 125,000 characters, that's your bank account and all kinds of stuff.
So look, let's put this up again. Where is this and what exactly is this that we're looking at here?
Well, this is a prototype in Europe, in Finland, for the European Economic Union. They've set up a whole consortium of companies to form this. And so this is the core of a quantum computer. Now,
how large is that? How large of a thing are we looking at?
Oh, probably 15 to 20 feet high.
Okay. Wow.
But in fact, let me see if I've got a picture of the room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll put that.
Pull that up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. So you can get an idea of the size of it there.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is just the lower half of it. The core is up in the middle of that, up higher than that. But so this is what they're working with now. But the problem that they're having is this is very sensitive to minor fluctuations in temperature or even vibrations in the room. So until they solve that, it's not as reliable as a normal type, a chip computer that we use. Now, they're going to try to solve it. They may have already solved it, but letting the world government, the world economy, of the people there be subject to control by this device is a bit risky now because it's flimsy, as far as stability.
So in your opinion, is this just part of, we hear a lot of talk about, saying now cover on the Big Picture Live, the World Economic Forum, the World Bank and everything's trying to move us to the digital currency. Is the whole tracking that you're talking about, Stan, of products and so forth, is the digital currency just another piece of that's going to be, these supercomputers are going to be processing, like we were talking about the other night, that when you do away with cash, and nowadays, somebody cuts your grass, the kid down the road cuts your grass for you, and you give them a $20 bill. Well, they're trying to do away with that, so they want to track when you get your grass cut. They want to track when you even Sandy pointed out, giving money to the homeless. The homeless will not even be able to receive money. Is this
hiding it under your mattress? That's over, right?
Yep. Well, look at this. I mean, if you want to do the pro argument of this, you can say, well, look, all this fentanyl drug trade and everything like that will have to go through a digital account, and we can track them, and we can take their money and lock them up. Right. I mean, we can eliminate a lot of crime that way. And there's just so many ways you can track a person by their earning and spending, whatever method they're using. So that's a great idea. And the problem is who's in control of it.
Yes.
If another human or group of humans are in control of it, they are fallible. They're probably more fallible than this quantum computer I was talking about. Yeah. And mistakes at that level are going to be planet-wide. It's dangerous. Yeah. And so when Jesus returns and makes a perfect government and it's fair, then I'm down for that. You can have that. You can have an ID number if he wants one or whatever. Yeah. But not until we have a perfect government. And that's the limitation.
Yep.
So we go ahead, Sandy.
I was just going to say the technology, the computing power is essential to this beast government because they can't be omnipotent, omnipresent, and all powerful the way God is through natural sources, but through using technology and tracking and cameras and pattern recognition, everything that they use as a tool, they will be godlike, and it will just reinforce this whole control system that they've created or trying to create.
Yeah, yeah.
At the time when we first started doing this, in the late 70s, they had to use an equation that had 98 variables in it to just to look at the weather and not the economic system. So when you have that many variables, that kind of solution does require a really supercomputer of some description. Yeah. The other thing is, too, the Club of Rome report back in the late 70s did talk about handling resources across the planet. Like in India, if they had a shoe shortage, they would know about it. They'd be manufacturing more shoes over in China and sending it to them. They could have all this data and process it and ship the stuff and make the stuff where it's needed. But, the problem with that is you have to have artificial intelligence. You have to have a computer running it, not a person. It has to happen quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And artificial intelligence has so many problems.
Yeah.
If you have 10 programmers working on it and giving it value decisions, saying, okay, if such and such happens, what do we do? Do we do this, do that, whatever?
Right.
And if you got 10 different directions to go, the supercomputer, the AI is going to say, tilt, don't know, I'll take a punt.
Yeah.
So,
But what you're essentially talking about in that scenario is logistics, and who's worked out a better system for logistics than the Walmart Corporation. This is what I hear people talk about, how they have got it down. They are the pinnacle for the model for logistics of getting things where they need to be when they need to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a form of artificial intelligence. It's also called critical path planning, which has advanced a lot since we started in the late 60s, I think it was.
And this is what you were talking about when you first started talking. The things you were talking about are not necessarily so amazing, but when you apply, if I'm not mistaken, the time frame that you were talking about, people were discussing these things with you, it was in the 1970s? Was it that long ago?
Yeah, in 1974, IBM had 160 computers hooked all across the planet. And at the end of the day, they could process all the buying and selling on credit cards for the planet then.
Oh my.
But it took that many computers. Now it's
See, that's what's so
You can have
amazing to me.
Yeah.
You were having discussions with people 50 years ago
Yeah.
about these matters. That's what's so amazing.
And I think it might have slipped right over people when you were talking about that in the 1970s. You said part of the technology you were developing was putting this technology in your hand. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, well, look, we tried to figure out, how to get around stolen credit cards or ID cards, and obviously it had to be a biomarker of some sort and a barcode or something on the right hand, because most people are right-handed and carry the groceries in the left hand and keys in the right hand, and they could get scanned like that. And if people didn't have hands, amputees or whatever, then the thin bony part of the forehead would be a place where we could place the mark.
Oh my goodness!
There were about 5 of us in the room discussing this. So,
what were you thinking at this time when these discussions were happening? What were your thoughts?
Were you a Christian at that time?
I was raised that way, but I drifted along to, very secular pursuits in computing.
Gotcha. Oh,
and
wow.
I was looking at the efficiency of it, and we were all excited about it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until that night in the desert in about 1973, 74, when I made my peace with our Maker, with the good Lord, that I realized when I read that portion of Revelation that was in the Bible that the old lady had given me in the town before we were in. She said, "Look, read this when you get a chance." And there it was, telling about the numbering, the marking and stuff. And I thought, wow, holy cow.
Yes.
You were working on it. You were working on what you were reading. Wow, that is incredible.
Yes.
Well, that's what helped me
Yes.
make the decision right then to get active and get on board with the Lord. That, and plus the fact that there were people trying to kill me. So anyway,
Yeah, that's the typical
That can be a
come to Jesus moment.
that can be a motivating factor as well, right?
Yes, yes.
yeah, no atheist in a foxhole. Yep.
Yeah, come on. That's amazing. Well, Stan, I mean, as we continue to get to know you more and more, and our big picture audience continues to get to know you, your story is just absolutely incredible.
is.
Sandy and I are so fascinated
Yes.
just to learn more and more about it. And here we are. You've talked about the computing system, the computing power. And then we see the rollout of so many things, and we see the World Health Organization negotiating for this powerful treaty that you and I talked about before that they're trying to enact. And then you have the global elites talking about, we need we call the V, the V thing that everybody got in their arm. We call it on this show the wank wank, so that we don't get flagged. So if you ever hear me say the wank wank, that's what I'm talking about. So they're working on a wank wank passport that they're saying that this is just going to be just so that we can be more efficiently bring you in and out of countries and so forth. But in your opinion, is that passport that they're talking about and the Global World Economic Forum and the WHO's treaty, is that the first step, putting on your phone to then also putting it under your skin, the technology that even back in the 1970s you were working on?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. The treaty, this pandemic treaty, it doesn't say, in as far as I can see, that they're going to put a biomarker on you, but obviously that's where it's got to go, because your vaccine pass could be handed to someone else. I mean,
Right.
like a fake passport. So it's all going to get back down to what can you do to stop people cheating on the system. And as I said, to me, it's a very logical way to do it. It's just the problem that I wouldn't trust me in charge of that.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And it is ultimately really technology is I look at it almost like money. Money is not evil by itself. It can be used for missions. It can feed the homeless, but that same piece of money can be hired to kill somebody.
Well, the problem is a bunch of psychopaths are in control of these things.
Yeah. So,
Now, say what you mean now.
Hey, she ain't got no problem with that, Stan. She ain't got no problem. So absolutely, baby. It is. And I think what you're talking about, Stan, is the technology makes sense. It's exciting.
Yeah.
But
how efficient? Your exact word, efficiency.
But but when it gets in the wrong hands, it becomes evil.
It does, and that's the only difference, really. I mean, in the end, like in the kingdom of heaven, I'm sure that you're tied in. When you can link, mentally to God, to our Creator, that means that everything you do and think is being monitored. But that's okay, because you've got a good traffic cop there. A friend.
That's good. That's so good. That's so good.
Well, before we leave right here, what was Hillary Clinton attempting to do in the early 90s when she wanted to take control of the healthcare system? Was she trying to push us steps closer to what's going on now? I mean, this is a long time ago, but she clearly wanted to grasp control concerning people's health. But we know that it entailed more.
A lot of people's forgotten about that.
Yes.
I mean, just
it was a very big deal
for the audience. What she's talking about,
cloaked in the vice of your health.
She was the spouse, the first lady. She was not an elected official, and she wanted to be in charge of the healthcare system.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think about that? Do you think that was the beginning of moving towards where we're at now, Stan?
Oh, of course it was, but in her mind, it was probably gaining more power for her family. It was being directed by a global group. There's no question about it.
Yeah, global link. There you go.
So yeah, I think that you're probably in agreement with us that the people that we see on camera, they're not the ones really moving and shaking. There are forces in behind. Can you speak on that from your experience? Because the world that you were in, Stan, you were exposed to a lot of that behind the scenes secret society. How real is that? Because nowadays, you even to this day, even as awake as some people are getting, they still feel like that's just out there. That ain't real? That ain't real. Is that real?
Oh, it's real. In my personal dealings down in Australia with the Teller project. It was so classified that it doesn't have a clearance in normal government because we don't let normal government know what we're doing in those private situations. But
Wow.
the the guys down there, like my control agent was Captain Sir John Williams, who was, he had his own companies. He'd been knighted by the Queen and, recovered a bunch of gold for the war effort in World War II. But he took me into what's called the Melbourne Club there, and as part of my briefing. And in there is what they call the Cotton Top Society. All the older guys with white hair and, smoke cigars and have port in the other room, the good old boys club.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
and they're real, but you normally never hear their names or what they're doing.
Right.
Wow.
And beyond that, you've got them in Europe, and you've got them in Russia, believe it or not, and all through the kingdoms in Europe. Some of it's really under the auspices of the Catholic control or the Vatican control.
Yep.
Wow.
It's amazing how much control that they've had over the nations of the
Yes.
world for so many years.
Yes.
Wow.
It's-
That's
But
incredible.
yeah,
So
they're
it's
real. They're real.
And so piggybacking on that, I've got a question on that. Is the forces that are behind? You said they're in Russia. You said they're in the UK. They're in America, in different countries. But yet, on the forefront, we're all sort of fighting each other and enemies and intelligence. Are these people that are actually in the government that are not really our enemies, and that's just pretend? Or are these people that are just not? They say, I don't even have anything to do with my government. We have our own little secret thing that we're doing.
These people control the flow of money, and that's real power. Okay, and they control all the governments, and the governments react to what this group gives them as far as news or instructions, whether it be directly or indirectly suggested. The people that are in politics or in the government things have a transitory station, maybe 2 years, 4 years,
Right.
8 years.
Right.
Not many of it are lifetime appointees.
Exactly.
Now, as a result, you can't tell them this kind of stuff and then release them from the government. You've got to have infrastructure that transcends them. That it's there all the
Wow.
time.
Wow.
And
That
that's
deep
and that's
state-
going to be banking.
Those deep state people.
Yeah. Well, yeah. To quote our good friend, yes.
Look how far
in the
along we
swamp.
are in history till we ever heard the term deep state, when this has been
Yeah.
going on probably since the inception almost of our country.
Well, it's been going on before this country formed.
There you
The
go.
Illuminists go back generations,
Yeah.
and and the Vatican had its control over Europe and over the heads of Europe, and the Vatican realized that there had to be a consolidated global control. Eventually, that's what they've been working toward. But they're going to be one part of this new world order. But they were alerting the people of the world to this. The Club of Rome, which was Vatican inspired, the Club of Rome has produced several reports about the limits to growth for the planet Earth. The people and
Population. Wow.
Yes.
yeah, and that was in 1978. The limits to growth, and so they've known this, and it's been a generational plan to move us toward the position where we are now. And you say this war, rumors of wars. This has to happen. It has to be played up in the press mainly to get the people of Earth to say, look, we're going to have a nuclear war. Oh, that's going to kill everybody, and panic. And look at the weather. Oh, yeah. Look, it's droughts and floods and loss. Look at the pandemics. Oh, wow. People are like chickens in the hen yard, just running around crazy.
And the to and fro.
But
Yep.
it's the fox at the gate, and that's what's happening with these people. So the real governments and stuff out there are just puppets, and they do what they're led to do by this group.
Wow.
And they try to do this, accent these crisis curves ahead of time, and make them worse so that we can put into position those institutions or actions that would give us a stable world government. So they have to get us alerted to it early, so they exaggerate how bad these things are to get people to accept the new world order.
That is incredible. That is incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, the things that you've heard for years that people have just said, well, I don't know if that's true or not. You're hearing from somebody that has been in it. This is a man of God who loves the Lord, who has integrity, who has a track record of everything that he is saying has been proven to be true, is telling us what we've always suspected is real. So when you hear, what that does is solidify this in my mind is, you've got these presidents that are being asked about intelligence things and Area 51 and all this other kind of stuff and all that. They could legitimately say, I don't know. You're saying right now that there are things that presidents, prime ministers, and kings that are going on in their country, regardless whether it's military, whether it's behind the scenes cabal planning wars and all this, that these leaders of the country literally don't know. They do not know.
Let me ask a quick question to Mr. Deyo. Mr. Deyo, I've heard that there are at least 28 levels of top secret above the president. Is that true, or is it anywhere in that ballpark?
Sandy, I don't know because, they don't tell you that, at least at the level I was at. But I'm sure that there are classifications that are supranational, they're global in this organization. But those are just levels of security that are set up to handle business like normal. We're going to step right over that. There's going to be like a full disclosure on the alien presence.
Right.
We're moving toward that in the mainstream now, that when Fox starts covering it, that it's close.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is going to be offered as a solution to the global crises. And there are about 5 or 6 major ones. So people of the earth, wanting a green earth and, everybody living and no nuclear war and that kind of stuff, are going to be very receptive to an offer from off the planet, from a society that obviously has solved everything because they can travel the galaxies, right? So that's what we've got to watch out for. That's going to be coming at the time when all this hits a crescendo, a peak, and we're threatened with a nuclear war over the Russia-Ukraine situation or America-China situation, something like that, or, the Taiwan issue, is going to be a trigger point where people will go, oh, no, is this duck and cover or what?
Yeah.
And that's when the opportunity is going to come.
Well, I've got 2 quick questions for you concerning this disclosure. Are there other countries in the world who are pushing for that, and they have already wanted that to happen before now, but the United States is kind of holding that back? And number 2, we are manipulated and kept in the dark and controlled through media here in the United States. Seems pretty easily. That wouldn't be hard to do when 6 corporations own all news outlets and so forth. And so, of course, someone can handle the president or other officials and give them their talking points and decide what questions get to be asked, decide what gets to go out over the airways, shaping the narrative for everyone. But are other countries already ready for this moment of disclosure and we're holding it back?
That's a good question. I don't know this late in the game, but I know that South American countries, a lot of them, were involved in documenting the UFO presence, and they've been pushing, for full disclosure. And the United States has been involved in some of the countries' research or recording of the UFO situation. Even Putin himself is subject to this global order.
I believe
you'd
that.
never know the names. Yeah, you'd never know the names of the people doing this. They're behind the scenes. I tell you this, though. In that book I wrote in 1978, The Cosmic Conspiracy, there's a copy of it in King Charles's library. It was in his father's library. There's a copy of it in, what was President Reagan's library. And there have been a number of world leaders that have had an opportunity to read that book. In Clinton's administration, he and his Secretary of Defense, and they told me it was James Schlesinger, and he let me know that they had a copy of it and that what was in it was the game plan, just as I'm telling you here today. And the good Lord led me to that point to discover that in 19.
Yes.
What was it? 70.
That's amazing.
74, 75.
So he didn't even try to skirt around it. He told you, obviously off the record, but he told you face to face, "You've got it. You nailed it. This is the plan."
Oh yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Well, look, it was his influence that got my citizenship returned and got me back home.
Yeah.
When they'd kept me locked off down there in Australia for 30 years.
Wow.
So.
Well, I tell you what, we haven't really gone into this territory very much on our show here, so this might be a good segue to just try to be more forthcoming with our viewership, exactly what we're talking about, where we are in this place in history. What is disclosure? Because we haven't really laid that out. So
we've talked about it among ourselves and with our family, but on our show here, we've really not rolled out the term disclosure and what that means. And you're saying this is not just a term that we're using. This is a laid out plan that the people of the world need to understand is in the works and is about to be revealed.
Oh, yes, definitely. And look, as I said a few minutes ago, the world government's a good idea as long as you got trustworthy people handling it. So the way they're going to get around this is they're going to have quote unquote alien beings come with technology to help us save our planet and save ourselves. And we're so close to that, as you see. That disclosure really means switching over from our normal type governments into a world government. And like this pandemic, virus and, a vaccine passport and the treaty, for the pandemic treaty. These are subtle ways, not so subtle that people awake, but subtle ways to get us to accept control of our country and us by a multinational or global power source. Wow. And as I say, they're not going.
It's pushing us into certain ways of thinking and certain ways of operating in our daily lives. And it's just a softening up and a preparation for us.
It is. It's like when you herd cattle, you've got a gate you want to get them to. You start riding in from the sides and you get them to the gates that you want.
And you hate to use that kind of terminology, but that's pretty much what it is.
Pretty much what it is.
Oh, yeah.
And it's programming us. Ultimately, all of it is a part of moving towards the beast system to get us to the place where we need somebody to save us. Although we've already had someone come to save us, they don't receive him. So they're trying to find what else can we get to save us. Is that going to be a government entity? Is that going to be the Antichrist that comes upon the scene? Is it going to be in alien forms? Is it going to be whatever it is? They want to accept everything in the world except Jesus.
Oh, that's true. And as President Reagan said at one point, what we need now to unify the planet is an invasion of little green men.
Yeah.
Whether he got that from my book or what, I don't know. But there it is.
He sure did. In a speech at the UN, he laid that out to everyone, didn't he?
Yeah.
How would we act? How would we respond if there was a threat like this? But let me ask you, you've probably had a lot of time to think about scenarios and how things might play out. In your mind, what does disclosure look like? How does it happen? What is said? Does it come from our government? Does it come from the Vatican? What does it look like?
Well, I don't know exactly where it's going to break out. I do know that the hue and cry at this point is for the government to tell us the truth, whether it be the American government or the Russians or whatever. And the average person, is now saying they don't trust their government to tell the truth about this with all the evidence that's being given to them in the media. So the disclosure, I think, will be at some point where people are needing something like that, and it will happen like, a mile diameter craft hovering over New York or some major city or all major cities. And, technically speaking, the engineers of our society would say, oh, you can't do that. It would fall apart from its own weight. Wow. And this is the kind of disclosure they will make. The technology is going to be so outrageous, but the people can't deny it. And they're going to say, there's got to be a solution there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like the government has been trying for many decades to keep it under wraps and let any kind of information, announcement, disclosure, or acknowledgement come out at their time and on their terms, but they are losing control. At some point, this seems like it's going to happen.
Yeah, and I also believe that it is this whole desire for that God-shaped hole that we try to fill with everything. People are going to quickly embrace that. Yeah, this is actually our origins. This is why we're here. This is not only is this our Savior, but this is this group and this entity, this role. This explains why I'm here. Because they'll go back to that. They want to accept everything else except what the Bible says.
Well, it's part of the great deception that Jesus warned us about. And for a long time, until we had until our generation had hands-on with this UFO stuff, the Great Deception was thought to be something to do with method of worship or concepts in the churches, whatever, that they would be misled. They will be, but
Yes.
the bigger picture is that it said that all would be fooled except the very elect, if such were possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I look at that in my timeline and I say, well, gosh, maybe that's because the elect will be gone in a rapture.
Wow.
In fact, if you look at our website today here, I've got it. Let's see here. Holly has a.
I got
okay.
it. I'll fire it. Let's see. Here it is. All right. Let me throw you up here too.
If you click on that Holly note there, and you click on that 6-month study on the end times,
Yes.
there are two wonderful charts that she put together over that 6 months.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful.
And,
yeah.
you can expand them. They're huge.
Okay. Wow.
Let me just see. So that will give you an idea of where we stand on this and why.
Oh, that's excellent. I encourage
wonderful.
everyone to
read
go read
Yes.
that. That is incredible. I'll be going to read that myself.
later. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bible decodes itself. The prophecies and things decode themselves.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
you
yeah,
just
they
have
do.
to be familiar with the way that it's decoding. And I get back to this thing in Revelation 13 about here wisdom is. There's a code there. Wisdom in the Bible. Where else is it going to decode that word wisdom? King Solomon. Where
Yeah.
else are they going to talk about 666? The number there. It's the number of talents of gold that he earned or received as tribute to King Solomon, which is why I harken back to the fact that our Antichrist may have a name that's a derivative of the name Solomon.
Wow.
Like Suleiman.
Wow. That's something. That's
like
something.
MBS. I've heard you talk about MBS before. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's one. He's one. There's another one that might come to power in Turkey, Süleyman Soylu. He's losing in the potential election that might happen, but still there's a one. And then, Iran, I think they're out of the race. But when General Soleimani was there, when he was alive,
Yeah.
he was really gaining favor in the area.
Yeah.
If you look on my show images page there at slide 13, it gives you a rundown that I've made on several potential antichrists and false prophets from Revelation 13. But whoever it's going to be, I do think it's going to be a Middle Eastern person, and his name and his wealth will verify that he's a Solomon type.
All right, so I'm gonna fire that over here because I want to show everybody this. All right, so this is, sorry that I don't have your picture up here, but I can't put your picture up here right now. I don't think.
No, that's all right. Just roll it across that.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
So yeah, I see. Okay, so these are.
So that's MBS on the left, Mohammed bin Salman.
In Search of the Antichrist of Our Time. This was updated. So he's just got breakdowns of why these people could be potential. And that's why I tell everybody all the time, and I'm pushing it, and it's in the show notes. Look at this. Unbelievable wisdom.
Yeah.
Go to standdeyo.com because you're not going to get this kind of breakdown of potential antichrists and why. And no, you're not saying this is who they are. You're just saying these are the things that they've been known for.
You created an argument for each one of these, which is wonderful.
That is
This
amazing.
great
That is
work.
amazing. Wow. Standdeyo.com.
And it may not be the solution, but it gets people to thinking and looking themselves at figures in politics. We may not, as Christians, we may not see him revealed. We'll be gone before that.
Yeah, exactly.
But at any rate, those who come behind us who realize that they've made a mistake, this will help them to kind of get a grasp of the scripture and what they need to do. MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, he has holdings, huge billion-dollar holdings that he's controlling now. And one of them, he's invested in a blockchain global economy program. And he owns a couple of banks and things like that over in Mecca. But he is certainly coming to the forefront as a guy with power. And Solomon is a derivative of Solomon.
That's amazing. That is a great
I love the way
point.
you found that derivative.
Yeah.
And he is just wanting to build right now.
He is.
Do you have some insight on the line that he's building? That's just among.
Have you seen
that's
that
just
yet?
one among many projects.
Yeah, he's been talking about that for several years now. It's a straight line city that the train or the commuter thing runs from the Gulf there at Aqaba all the way up into the mountains near Jordan. South of Jordan. The It's a very ambitious project. I mean, the things that he's adding to it are like, supernatural. You think, wow, how can they do that? But
Right, yeah. So where are they getting that power? Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and how are they going to get people to live in these places and do this and give up cars and things? You're going to be walking or bicycling to every place, or it's going to be a green mile or 10
Yep.
miles wherever along that line is.
Yep.
But it is an interesting project,
Very.
and yeah, one of the other things too is south of Riyadh, which is where he's headquartered, about 120 miles south of there, along what's called the Jabal Tuwaiq raised mountain range. It's kind of flatlands, but anyway, down and then over to the west of that spot, 120 miles, is a base in Saudi Arabia. And I knew about that back in 74, 73, something like that. Our security detail was telling us about it. And I look at it now in Google Earth, and it's been scrubbed over. The land's been moved around, but there's still traces of something being there. It's still there, part of it.
So the naked eye wouldn't be able to know it, but you can look. You can still look at Google Maps and see the remnants. You can see where it was.
And Bing Maps too. Actually, if you go to my let's see, if you're on my show images page, and you go down to about the middle of it where it says "Go look at strange, artifact, etc." In let me just see.
Would we know that we were looking at something that was scrubbed? Is there any indication, rough edges, borders? I mean, you would know because you've been there.
No, but look, no, I didn't get there. No, I wouldn't live to talk about it. I'm
you
sure.
know what it looked like before they scrubbed it, but would we be able to?
Yeah, click on that View of the Middle Eastern Mysteries. Have you got that there? All right, click on that.
Okay, all right, I got it.
This is a whole nother bunch of images.
Gotcha. We
okay,
see now.
Okay, wow.
Now scroll down to where it says Saudi Mysteries below, 19 January 2023.
Saudi, okay.
Okay. Now, what you're seeing in slide 97 is some kind of a line. I don't know whether it's a power station or whatever, leading to the base I'm telling you about. And to look at the base location, let's see, which is the best one. Okay, click on slide 95.
95, okay.
Now, you can enlarge that, but you can see that the ground has been worked heavily, here.
Yeah.
And there are artifacts there that are from the time of Atlantis. I think it was. You see these dotted lines and triangular shapes and circle shapes. This is very, very old stuff. And if you click over to slide 96,
that almost sort of looks like it's a misconstrued pentagon. It's almost like half a pentagon. That's amazing.
All right, we'll go over to slide 96 now, which is an overview of all of 96. This, and you can see the clear blue area or bluish gray area there.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you click on that, that's where a lot of the earthworks occurred to cover things up.
Wow.
And you don't need a degree to figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
We can see that.
You don't need to have a degree in mapping to figure that out. Obviously, something was being covered up. That's
perhaps they could have done a better job of trying to cover it up.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of tended to kill anybody that got too close. It wasn't authorized. I mean, but that's 120 miles down from Riyadh, then 120 miles over to the west. And if you look in that picture in the top right-hand corner, I have the latitude and longitude, so you can go check this out yourself.
Yep. Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I got you right there. I see it. Okay, let me flash that up there. You can see that. He's got the latitude and longitude in Riyadh to look it up. So here's my question: Is these things, these images that we're seeing, that we just looked at, and all the others that people can go look at, are these places still controlled by the Saudis, or are these controlled by these entities and governments and so forth? Do you know?
I don't know, but the fact that they were there at one time, and when Mohammed bin Salman, probably before he was even born, kind of tells me that they're ingrained in the Saudi hierarchy somewhere.
Sure.
There's some things about Mohammed bin Salman Solomon's mother and her involvement, at the time he was born. I wonder if he wasn't being specially trained, and held back from the
Yeah.
public
Yeah.
up
Wow.
until this time.
Wow.
There's just a lot of mystery. In fact, the Solomon family can trace them back to a merchant from Israel, a Jewish fellow in Basra, who was from the tribe of Dan. And so, does that link him to the tribe of Dan?
Well, we were just at the tribe of Dan, and it was when we were in Israel, we went through the tribe of Dan, and our guide told us that was considered to be one of the most demonically active areas in all of Israel. That the tribe of Dan was very heavy in idol worship, occult. That the tribe of Dan was known for that. So that's incredible. Now, one of the things that I wanted to ask you real quick before we wrap this show up, because we've got many more shows every month. We're going to have Stan on here with us, and as you can see, you don't need to miss a one, because you're going to hear some stuff that you ain't going to hear anywhere else.
Yes.
But one of the things that you had suggested to us to talk about was, and I think it's a perfect segue talking about the Saudis, is their ties now and what's going on with them in Iran and China and all that's going on. You don't hear much about Saudi Arabia now. It was a big, big thing when 9/11 happened. Everybody's talking about Saudi Arabia. But now Saudi Arabia just sort of went into hiding a little bit while they're doing all these unbelievable projects. You talk about Iran, you're talking about China, you're talking about Russia. Where is Saudi really in all the big picture right now?
It's the big dog in the room over in the Middle East. What Saudi does, the Middle East follows. Now, they were at odds with Iran over the fact that Saudi Arabians, the Saudi government beheaded a cleric in the form of Islam that Iran followed, and they've now made peace over that, apparently in the last 2 months. And the Saudis have now opened up negotiations and had visits from China and from Russia. So you've got Iran, China, Russia, cozying up to Saudi Arabia, and the United States doing everything they can to irritate them and back away from them. So you can see the power is centralizing there. Now, what he decides on this Abraham Accords with Israel is going to be a game changer. Now, he's told the Israelis something, I forget now what it was exactly, that if they would do such and such, that he would sign that peace accord.
Wow.
I can't remember the exact detail of. There's too many things flowing around the brain bucket here. But anyway, that guy is really coming to the forefront. And as you say, he's been doing a lot of this stuff in secret. And then all of a sudden, boom, hits the headlines. And you think, where did he get $100 billion for this and that?
Yeah.
What?
So as all eyes are on Russia, all eyes are on China. You're telling us on this program, don't stop watching Saudi Arabia, because something is about to start really being involved with them.
Absolutely. And we know that in Islam, both the versions of it, that you can lie to the infidels. It's okay within their religion. Right. So if he says, I'm going to make a deal with Israel, okay, don't believe it. I wouldn't trust him as far as I could see him. So, watch that. You just put a thing in Google, alerts, and say, alert me when Mohammed bin Salman is talked about. And of course, you'll have a lot of them. Wow. But you'll get a feel for it and see where it's moving.
Yeah.
He's made deals with Pakistan as well, and he's wanting nuclear weapons. He's asked the United States. That was the other provision. He'd signed the Abraham Accords, the United States, and give him permission to start manufacturing domestic nuclear power.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Domestic. In quotations, domestic nuclear power. Yeah, okay. Yeah, anything that's over there that's supposedly nuclear and domestic, we don't believe that. We know what's really going on.
Can you pull up spaceweather.com?
Spaceweather.com. Okay, all right. Okay.
All right. And if you look down below that orange box and, whatever, look at the blue thing.
Yes,
Bring the blue thing up. Now, what you're watching there is a coronal mass ejection directly opposite of us on the other side of the sun that, had it been pointed in our direction, would have caused a lot of problems. A lot. This is extreme. I mean, this was traveling at, what was it, 3 million miles an hour? I forget.
Oh, my goodness.
anyway, you can translate it because it tells you in.
And you're saying what we're seeing, that explosion was on the other side, not our side. But if it was on our side, we'd be gone.
Well, it's traveling 2,000 miles a second, and up there where it says extremely rare far side CME, something big just happened on the far side of the sun. During the early hours of March 13th, SOHO coronagraphs recorded a far side halo CME leaving the sun faster than 3,000 kilometers per second. Now, it's extremely rare because of its speed, and they say it only happens once in a decade on average.
Wow.
But I'm telling you, with the instability we've seen in the solar sunspot cycle, if it comes around in a week, it'll be around our side in a week when it produce that. If it does another one, that could hit our electrical systems, power grids, everything.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. If that hits us, what does that mean? What does that mean in the short term?
Well, if it does hit our power grid, it can bring down all power to every home, every business, everything. It could ruin all your electronic devices. Phones won't work. Everything that's electronic. And we've been warning about this coming. That's why my partner Tim and I started that company over in Kansas. Yeah,
okay, right there.
This is National Kansas State, where our factory is. And go back up there, and you can get your EMP shield up there. But we are having a lot of people are now suddenly waking up and buying our EMP shields like crazy.
Great.
Yeah. We have it in our house. We're so excited that that we went ahead, and Sandy was telling me, she's like, that was when I was just learning about Mr. Deyo. She's like, this man said we need this in our house, and we put it in our house. So our house is covered. So I don't know how much it will, the sun, if it does that thing, but we'll have the best protection we can get. And we encourage everyone to go to standale.com and get yours as well.
Larry, I think we talked about this last time. You guys have fire extinguishers in your house, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. I encourage people, even with an EMP shield, to do that, to put out fires outside the house, coming from the power box to your house, anything like that. And remember that you're dealing with 20 to 30,000 volts of electricity. So wear your tennis shoes, don't go barefoot.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an incredible show.
Yes, always enlightening.
Incredible. And this is going to happen every month here with Stan Deyo on the Kingdom Intelligence Report. And we thank you so much for the information that you've already given us. And everybody needs to go to standale.com.
Yes.
It will be down in the show notes below. One-click access. You can go there for all the wealth of knowledge to get a hold of his books, his videos, watch where he's on other people's programs. He's always being a guest on somebody's program, whether it be a podcast, YouTube. And then, of course, use it as a resource for news. It is a great news item. And, of course, Holly is just incredible with all her points and things that she says. But Sandy and I appreciate you so much. Anything you'd like to say?
It's been another honor to spend time with you. And we are so very appreciative that you would spend this time with us.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, no problem. That's what the Lord's appointed me to do, so just doing my job.
Thank you so much, Sandy. This has been an incredible, incredible show.
And I hope it's just the beginning.
It is just beginning.
I got a feeling there's so much more.
Oh, there is. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do it now. You may want to consider being a partner with us. It's $5 a month just to let us know that you appreciate what we're doing. All you got to do is click that join button down below. One of the best things that we found that you can put this program in front of people is to hit that like button right below us and share, and make sure that you let all your family say, hey, you'll get your mind blown. You need to watch the Kingdom Intelligence Report, Big Picture. So we want to say good night, good morning, wherever you're at. Thank you for watching.
It's been great being with you.
And we want to always remind you that no matter what's going on the big picture, we ain't woke, but we are certainly awake.